Don't lose your way. Your mind free how to be as one.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here, coming at you guys with another deck profile today. This will be part of some of the Invasion Vengeance deck profiles I'll be bringing you guys. I'll probably have an update to show you guys some Treat Toad hero lists, as well as probably like a PK hero list as well. I'm still working on lists, but overall this is a Metalfoe list. This is not like, obviously the Yang Zing variant build is coming. It'll probably be here either this week or early next week. But this is more like what I call pure Metalfoes with like the Magic Specters and whatnot. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to the deck profiles. First off, we of course the standard list of 3 of all the Metalfoes, 3 Volflame, 3 Gold Driver, 3 Silver, 3 Steelin. This isn't like other variants like the Yang Zing variant where I feel like you're playing like kind of standard Metalfoes. This is the typical lineup you see across the board, so not too much to say. I think we all know what Metalfoes do by now. Pop a face-up card, set a spell and trap from the deck. And of course we have the new Metalfoe, Bismagia. I've looked at some of the OCG lists. 2 is kind of like the maximum you can run, but I only run 1. Basically, whenever Bismagia is popped in the Pendulum Zone or on the field, you can, in the end phase, it's like a Scarm, it can search any Metalfoe. The problem with Bismagia is there's no way to re-access it once it gets in the extra deck. You can't Pendulum Summon it back, and the only 2 ways to access it are by banishing a counter and by summoning it by Mithril. In both instances, there's other cards you want to grab from your extra deck anyways. So you can get away with 2 Bismagia, but 1 is kind of like, I think, the optimal number. 2 Archfiend Eccentrics, in this list I don't have like MSTs or Cosmic Cyclones or whatnot. Eccentric is probably like, has a lot of neat interaction with this deck. Like for example, you can, if you kind of have a bricky scale, like you don't have a high or low scale, you can use Eccentric to pop your face down combination to get whatever scale you need. Eccentric is pretty good in this deck. However, with ABCs being a thing, you can feel free to maybe move a few cards around to make room for a couple of copies of whatever removal you want to run. But Eccentric's really good. Being able to just summon her and pop floodgate type monsters is really good. Plus, obviously, you can pop spells and traps. And I always like flexible cards. 2 copies of Ariadne. Ariadne is really good because it searches your solemn cards. Some lists run 3. You can kind of maybe cut luster or trim some stuff down, but I like the 2 Ariadnes personally. 3 Bunbukus, 1 Kirin. I always, until I tested the deck, I didn't really feel that I needed 3 Bunbukus, but in testing, the 3rd Bunbuku is really good because not only does it search your Kirin, you can make first turn Totem Bird, which is really good if you have the right type of monster along with it, such as Kirin or Sloth. It's really good. Even with Kirin at 1, I fully suggest you run your 3 Bunbukus. The 2 Sloths, I know a lot of Metalfoe players run Jowgin, and some people are even suggesting Fossil Dyna. Fossil Dyna is not bad because it deals with Book of Eclipse, because even if your opponent flips it face down, they can't just simply ram over it now. They've got to remove the Fossil Dyna by other means. Sloth, however, is good in its own right because ABCs can't easily play around it. And while Book of Eclipse is a card, I would suggest you run Fossil Dyna over something like Jowgin. I do think that I think that Sloth is kind of the best, most optimal card. Then of course it's Metalfoes. We play 3 Gofus. Gofu is still incredibly potent even with the Invasion Vengeance support. Gofu and Metalfoes just go together. The card, but what makes it even better is since tokens are counted as normal monsters, not only can you use them as fusion fodder for your Adamantite, now you can actually use them to make fusion for your Alcahest, which is one of the better plays the deck now has, is being able to snatch opponent's monster on their turn. Gofu is still a staple at 3 because you want to see it first turn. Then the 1 Luster Pendulum. Luster Pendulum actually opens up some... If you open Luster and a Metalfoe, you can just stack your extra deck so quickly. And Luster, I feel like Luster's... I know a lot of players don't run Luster, but I still think even at 1, it's so good that I definitely like it as a staple. Now for the spells, we have the 2 Pot of Desires. I know a lot of builds run 3, but I think 2 is kind of like the number I've found I like. You don't want to see it in multiples. You don't want to draw desires off of desires. So I feel like 2 is the optimal number for me, but obviously, you can change it. The card is definitely good, and in Metalfoes it fits really well because you have a lot of cards that do the same thing, and as long as you search, a lot of your important cards, you don't necessarily care what gets banished. Then the 2 Painful Decisions. In some builds, I do run 1 Summoner's Art as well. You can't, since you're running 3 Volflames. But Painful Decision is even better now because it sets up Mithril in the graveyard. It gives you an instant, and unlike a deck like Ignites, you can always access those graveyard Metalfoes in the graveyard. Then we have one of each of the fusion spells. Full Metalfoes fusion is more relevant because you have Alcahest being able to make a Thousand Eyes Restrict on your opponent's turn and disrupt their plays is always good. And of course, the normal fusion spell is kind of necessary. Typically, if I do have Pot of Desires in hand, I will search both of these out first before I do anything else, so I have access to them and they don't get banished. That's kind of important. For the traps, the 2 Metalfoes counter and 1 combination, I've looked at a lot of the OCG lists, and they run 2 counters, 1 combination in most of the lists. You can go just about any direction. I've even seen some OCG lists that run 1 counter, but I feel like this is the proper ratio. In my opinion, this is what I like and what I run. Then, of course, the Solemns for our Ariadnes. Next up, for the extra deck, we have the 1 Orichalc. I don't feel like you need more than 1. The card does end games on its own for sure, but I've never found an instance where I needed more than 1, at least with the new support. It does help you out a lot of stuff because you can pop it with a Metalfoe scale, and then it can pop a card on the field. It can get you out of some sticky situations, and it does end games on its own, which is always nice. The 2 Mithrils. Mithril is incredibly good because it allows you to constantly keep cycling your spell and traps, which means you can play an even lower spell and trap count than you played before. Basically, you can recycle. What she does is you can target 2 Metalfoes cards, be it monster, spell, or trap in your graveyard, 1 card in the field that includes your stuff. Shuffle the first 2 targets into the deck, and then you can turn the second target to the hand. The important thing I like about this card is that you can bounce your own stuff, so it doesn't necessarily require opponent interaction, but being able to return stuff, compulse stuff is always good. But the second effect is good as well. If it's sent from the field to the graveyard, it floats, it special summons a face-up Metalfoe Pendulum monster from your extra deck, or one from the graveyard, which is really good. I run 2 because you can actually put the first one back in the extra deck with the second one. Some OCG lists do run 3, and it's definitely an option if you so wish. Then the 1 Adamantite for the Ultimaya play, not too much to say about that. And of course the 1 Full Metalfoe Alcahest. Alcahest is an incredibly good card. Not only, the main thing is on your opponent's turn, it can snatch 1 effect monster on the field, including your opponent's, and it equips it to it, and then it gains defense equal to that card's attack. Then on top of that, it can use that card as fusion material, which is always nice. Being able to take a monster and use it to make your Adamantite or any of your other fusions is really good. I find it's kind of solid you don't really need more than 1. I heard people debate how many you need. 1 is the good number. 1 Zulkin. I still think Gofu and Adamantite into Zulkin is still one of the better plays the deck has. Kirin and Sloth are good on their own, but why not back them up with one of the most powerful monsters in the game currently? Then the 1 Scarlight. Scarlight has always been one of my favorite synchros. You could probably trim it for something else, but I definitely always like the card. Being able to just nuke fields and can really turn the tide of some games. The 1 Ignister, I like Ignister's obviously really good in this deck, but I like the fact that you don't necessarily need Luster. You can make it with Gofu and any of your level 3s, which is really nice. And Ignister, obviously, it's a Pendulum deck. Ignister's at 1 for a reason. The 1 Stardust Spark Dragon, you can bring it in. I like it because it allows you to protect some of your bigger monsters. Being able to protect something once per turn is always nice. The 1 Void Ogre Dragon, Void Ogre is an amazing card, and being able to lock your opponent out of spells on top of any other monsters or back rows you might already have online is always nice. The 1 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, obviously for the Ultimaya play, Crystal Wing is obviously an amazing card, and it can win you games in a lot of matchups. So yeah. The 1 Cyframe Lord Omega, now this isn't entirely necessary in this deck, but I like it for the main reason is this Pot of Desires is a card. You can put back some of the targets you banished off of Desires. You can also put your counter back if you banished it to add from the extra deck. Omega is always a kind of a neat little card to make. I don't make it all the time, but I kind of like having the option to make it in the extra deck. If you do feel like you need Utopia Lightning, you can probably trim the Omega and the Scarlight for it. Then for the rank 3s, we have the 1 Totem Bird. Totem Bird is always, a great first turn play. Usually you make it with your 2 Bunbukus, and it's really good because it allows you to negate spells. And the game is so spell heavy right now that it's really, being able to get any spell or trap is always nice, especially in combination with something like Kirin. Then the 1 Break Sword, this is kind of like, you can play this or Grand Pulse, it's up to you, but I kind of like Break Sword because you can pop your own stuff. Then the 1 Kistel to round out our extra deck. So that comes to the end of the deck profile, guys. I hope you guys enjoy. always happy to have you guys watch my videos. Tune in later for more content from the Invasion Vengeance, as well as an updated Metalfoe Ying Zing deck profile.